Fact number 2. The average life expectancy for males in America is about 75 years and about 80 years for females. But that is life expectancy from birth. So knowing this fact alone has limited value. For someone who is alive now, it's more important to know how much longer they have to live. This graph helps with that question. It shows life expectancy, how much longer a person is likely to live based upon their current age. At birth, males have a life expectancy of about 75 years, and women live on average about 80. It seems funny when you say it, but the longer a person lives, the longer they are expected to live. For example, a man who beats the average and reaches age 80 is likely to celebrate his 87th birthday. The situation is analogous for women, except typically they outlive the men. And sorry guys, identifying as a female does not increase your longevity. In matters of life and death, the scientific facts matter. In this graph, I've also done the subtraction for you, showing in the lower two graphs how many more years someone is likely to live based upon their current age. For example, a 60-year-old male has about 19 years of life remaining on average. And finally, I plot the percent of people who complete their lives at every age. Since death rates are small numbers, I display them on their own scale to the right. For example, a person who is 90 years old has a 10% chance of completing their life before their next birthday. Or, putting it positively, they've got a 90% chance of making it to 91. This would be an excellent opportunity for you to pause the presentation and to find yourself on this graph. Start by finding your current age on the horizontal axis, then use the colored curves and the left vertical axis to find your life expectancy and years remaining. Then use the gray curve with the right vertical axis to discover the odds of meeting your maker in the coming year. For example, I'm 63 years old. The upper blue curve indicates that I'm likely to live to age 80. The bottom blue curve confirms this, showing that I've got 17 more years on average, and the gray curve indicates that about one person out of every 100 people my age will complete their lives this year. Hopefully, I'm not that one. But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. When I get there, I've got some serious questions to ask Almighty God. For quick lookup, I've collected the longevity and probability values in this table. Keep in mind, these are just the average values. Which brings to mind Stephen Jay Gould's personal story, the famous paleontologist. He was diagnosed with abdominal mesothelioma at 40 years of age. Sadly, at that time, the median life expectancy after such a diagnosis was only 8 months. But Gould reasoned that since half of the people previously diagnosed with this disease must have lived longer than the 8-month prognosis, and half must have lived less, he, of course, wanted to be in the longer group. So he started making decisions accordingly. As it turns out, he did very well. Instead of only 8 months, Gould completed his life 20 years later. I took some of my exceptional students to meet with him once. He was a brilliant scientist and a really nice guy. He was known as Mr. Evolution in the scientific community. Ironically, his protege, Kurt Wise, is a young Earth creationist. Now there's an interesting juxtaposition for you. Even though we may not have Gould's prognosis of only 8 months more to live, the principle still applies to all of us. As can be seen in this graph, every one of us has a prognosis. So, like Gould, there are things we should do to increase the likelihood of surviving longer than average, and things we should avoid to reduce the chance that we will finish our journey sooner rather than later. As the Apostle Paul reminds us, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. I thank you for your attention.